Welcome to Prepare for Takeoff. I'm the creator and host, Terry L. Cyrus. We're the podcast dedicated to amplifying Black excellence. Every week, we sit down with a proven professional or rising entrepreneur. And this week, we're sitting down with the Queen Treasurer, Catherine Latoya Grant-Alston. Catherine, what's going on?
Thank you for having me. I'm here. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, blessed and highly favored. You being the Queen Treasurer, you are truly blessed and highly favored. I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of unpack what that means. But before we go there, talk to me about where you grew up at.
Oh my. So I grew up in the inner city of Hartford, Connecticut. And I was raised by my grandparents. My parents were addicts. I didn't know my father, but I knew that he was on a journey, as well as my mom. And so I was raised in what they call a hood. And then my grandmother moved to East Hartford. And when my cousin died, who I spent a lot of my time with, I, for the most part, stayed in East Hartford where my grandmother went to East Hartford school. So I have been a native of Connecticut and I am still here.
There's a lot of people that leave the state at some point in time, but you saw fit to stay. So what led to you staying in Connecticut?
So interesting enough, it was not my first choice. So when I went to college, I wanted to go to Fordham. I wanted to be in New York. And my grandmother shut that down. She was like, nah. And in hindsight, I entered college in 2001, which was 9/11. So I would have been in New York during 9/11. So, as they say, our elders know best. But I ended up going to the University of Connecticut. And upon graduation and just settling down, I ended up staying, found a really good job here. I worked actually through college at a bank. And as I finished school, I didn't want to do the retail banking anymore. The hours was crazy. I didn't want to go into management because then the hours doubled. It was just like insane. And so I ended up going into treasury. And, I built a career in treasury and, ended up getting married, having children and settling. And a lot of people, if you are from Connecticut, then you either stay here or if you're not from Connecticut, you're coming to Connecticut for a job. It's just not one of those states, in my opinion, that people come to settle in. It's either you're here or you're coming for, a job opportunity.
So you're there for a reason.
That part.
You're there for a reason. And I know we're both members of the Divine Nine. As you know, I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. I know you're a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So, so talk to me about what led to you entering the sorority and some of the work that you guys are doing in the greater Hartford, Connecticut area.
My goodness. So I am a proud soror, a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. There was no other choice. When I was entering college, there was a man who was instrumental on my journey to get to college, Steve Perry, Dr. Steve Perry, and his wife, Leilani Perry, who is my soror. She was just so beautiful, so kind, warming. And they would take us to colleges to see like what colleges we thought we would want to go to. And I always remembered her spirit, and I just always remembered how she served. And so that was my first interaction with a member in the organization. And then in full transparency, I went out for a scholarship. I got all of the scholarships except for the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Scholarship. I will never forget it. I will never forget the interview. It was so vivid. And the thing that sticks out was they asked me about social action. They asked me about the political climate. And, I was like, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. And so there was no doubt that I wanted to become a member. the quality in the sisterhood, the servants, leaders that I just met. Oh my goodness, the social action, right? All of those things just led me to want to be a member.
A lot of people have beginnings that you may not think would reflect where they are, but we all come from somewhere. And I think when you come from somewhere and there's a lot of things that you have to overcome at an early age, it makes you more resilient. It makes you feel as though if anything I want to put my mind to is possible, because look at how far I've gotten thus far. Look at how many odds I've been able to conquer. And I would say you just kind of having shared that little bit of your story, but we'll unpack, your professional journey and all the other things further. But I think you're truly a testament to that. And then you picked the right industry, because we live in a capitalistic society. So to understand how capital works, that's not a bad place to be if you grow up, like you said, in the hood. One of the reasons I'm in the hood is it has something to do with my economical situation. So let me take an interest in economics.
So interesting enough, one of the reasons why, well, the main reason why I picked finance and treasury is because I wanted to understand the power of a dollar. And so I could see firsthand, my mom on her journey and some of the things that she did to get the dollar. And then I would see other family members, let's just call them entrepreneurs, right? Who did different things for a dollar, but at the end of the day, it was still the same dollar. And so I was always just curious about the power in that dollar and how that dollar could have people making different decisions, doing different things, but it was the same dollar across the board. And
Right.
that's why I got into finance. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to understand. In treasury, if you know about treasury is the backbone of the financial system for America. And so I found myself getting into treasury to understand more about how money circulates, how people make decisions, how you can invest and so forth. And it just stemmed, like you said, from that upbringing.
So talk me through the specifics of treasury by comparison to like traditional finance and banking, and because I know you had mentioned that that's where you started, and then you kind of transitioned over into the treasury aspect of finance. But kind of talk me through like what that entails.
So Alexander Hamilton was the individual who basically built our treasury system, right? Our system. And so when you think of treasury, it's a niche within finance. And so you are talking about liquidity, you're talking about cash management, you're talking about your banking partners and banking regulation, but you're also talking about foreign exchange. You're also looking at long-term and short-term debt. So it's all of these things within this one area that you govern. And so it's traditional finance in that way, but it's niched because your top priority is to ensure that one, you have liquidity, two, you're diversifying how you move your money and where you put your money. And then you're making sure that you have an ear to the market so that you can be proactive in making decisions and hedging and risk management, as opposed to being retroactive with, if a rate changes, the euro to the US, it like the exchange, it goes long or short or whatnot. You already have insight, so you can make decisions prior to it happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah. From my understanding of what it is you mentioned, you are more into the details of finance, if you will. So maybe we look at money from a macro standpoint,
Correct.
and
Correct.
you deal with money from a micro standpoint.
Absolutely. You're looking at all of these things. You're looking at it holistically, and you're determining what takes priority, right? So you're determining, because in the traditional finance, right, you have I don't want to get I don't want to get too techy, but you have like your statements, right? You have your profit and loss, you have your balance sheet, you have like your traditional finance statements, and then even in that you have analysis, right? They call it FP&A, planning and analysis. And so you have all of those things to be able to project and to create budgets. But when you think about treasury, right, you're not just looking at particular pieces, you're looking at it from a holistic perspective. And you're also thinking about liquidity, because you can do something that's maybe, great short term for the profit, the P&L statement, but long term, how does it impact your cash? How
Okay.
does it impact your operations? So yes, it's a big picture, but it's niched down to details so that you can play nice in the sandbox with the finance people, with the accounting people, or with the AP people, right? It's truly a hub for all of the finance areas.
Was that something that you found fairly quickly into your professional journey, or did it take you a while to find yourself on that side of the room, if you will?
So it was quick, but sometimes we feel like we got to dip a toe here and there till we realize you were where you were supposed to be. So I actually started off in accounting, and I'm not going to say I was bored, because that's not it. But I just felt like it was just very consistent, right? Like every day was the same cycle or whatnot. And then I went to treasury from an accounting role. And there I realized, like, oh, there's a piece here, there's there. And you actually, you actually start creating relationships with different areas, because they all sort of impact what you're doing and you impact what they're doing. And I
Right.
realized that I like that more. And then I dipped out and I went to analysis. I was an analyst. I did some things, but I came back to treasury because I was just very interested in all of the pieces, and the fact that it wasn't just me. It wasn't just about me and my piece, right? It was a whole view of, hey, what is accounting doing? How can I make their jobs easier? How can they make my job easier? And so I started to build a network within the company and outside of the company, where I realized, like, I really like treasury, and I really like how all of the pieces pretty much play together like a puzzle.
So I would only imagine once you go into finance, you can't help but be personally very fiscally responsible. And I know, having gone through ups and downs, highs and lows, whatever circumstance you find yourself in, you get out of that situation, you vow to yourself that you're never going back to that. So I I could only imagine once she was like, okay, not only do I understand the power of the dollar, but I understand how these dollars make more dollars. So, like, any of our viewers and listeners that may find themselves in a predicament, and they may say, okay, well, listen, I don't have the requisite resources to invest and make that dollar and turn it into $3 or whatever the case may be. What advice would you give them now, realizing that you have this holistic understanding of a dollar? What advice would you give people that wants to turn that, especially in these economic times and inflation and all that? Like, what would you do to encourage them to start their journey in understanding how those dollars make sense?
So I'm happy that you said that, because I did have all of this education. I did know every single thing to do, but life happens and you can't stop life from happening. And so I actually claimed bankruptcy. So my husband and I actually claimed bankruptcy. And I had several surgeries. So we had medical bills, and our daycare bill was more than our mortgage. We had a mortgage, we had cars. Like, life was truly lifey. And those are some of the things, like, you can't help. I didn't know I was going to have, like, these major surgeries. I had heart surgery, I had a brain injury, I had to rehab for 30 days because I lost my memory. So life will happen. And what I think people misunderstand is that, so I was searching for the power of a dollar, because I wanted to understand how, that dollar moved, and what we could do with it. But the reality is, the power is within yourself. And we do not put enough emphasis on us owning and telling our dollar what to do, versus us needing to work for that dollar. Meaning that dollar owns us. So the reality is, no, we own the dollar. We have to tell the dollar what to do.
Right.
And that mindset shift is very different than what we're taught. And so in my journey, I had all of the book smarts, all of the education, but it didn't stop life from happening. And in that low moment, because I call it low, where it's just me, my husband, and we sitting at the table trying to figure this thing out because we can't go nowhere. It's the four walls. We're doing all of the things. I realized that you're right. I never want to be in this position again. And so how did I get here? And so we started doing money date night. So we started doing money date night. We do it as a couple, but I mean, if you're by yourself, grab your water, wine, whiskey, whatever you want to grab, and sit down and truly look at your finances. The difference between someone who stays in a financial hardship versus someone who doesn't is the plan. It's truly making the plan and executing it. I think people get so overwhelmed by what they think it will take to get out of that position that they just stop. They don't want to look at it. They don't want to know the numbers. They don't want to do any of those things. And I tell everybody, you have to look at your numbers. You need to know what you're working with. And then once you know that, you need to tell it what to do. You truly need to create an energy around your money. So we would do money date night, and we would say, like, these are the goals. And I remember sitting there. I promise you, we probably had a few dollars in our bank account. But I remember sitting there and saying, we're going to be millionaires. And that sounds crazy to somebody who, you know, like we bankrupt. We just pretty much lost everything, right? We got a house still. But it just sounds crazy because it seems so far up. But we set a goal, and that's exactly what we did. Now, I always say be specific. I wasn't specific. So we got $1 million portfolio. My next million is going to be in the bank account, right? I want it in the bank account.
Right. There you go. That part.
So, but we set a goal, and that's exactly what we did. And so I would encourage people who are looking, and it doesn't matter about the financial, education that you have, right? Because there are so many programs, there are literacy programs, there are so many resources where you can get this information, but it's about discipline. It's about discipline, and it's about being willing to do the hard thing well. And the hard thing is truly setting a plan and owning it and creating a different energy as opposed to what we know and what we've been taught and what our money trauma says, creating a different energy to be able to work the plan.
I know not only are you Queen Treasurer, but I know you also you do some speaking. You're in the community, and I'm sure you're sharing a lot of this messaging to people in the audience. So how long have you been doing that? What led you to that? And just wanted to kind of unpack that.
So I've been in this for over 20 years. I actually started working at a bank at the age of 16. And so I'm, as they say, I'm not new to this.
Right.
And so the finance aspect, I mean, my entire journey, working at the bank, being able to get my degree, undergraduate business degree, MBA. And so I have truly been in this industry. I became an author in 2020, part of Blessed Not Broken anthology. And it was the turning point of the speaker, author, all things. It was truly like, you know what? I'm no longer afraid of my story because my story is the thing that got me to that place. And so when I shared my story at that time, it was talking about being a corporate executive and the pressure that comes with being a woman in the business, right? Because when you look at finance, it is male dominated, right? That's starting to change a little bit, but at the end of the day, there's more men than women in the industry, especially Black women. And it gets tiring, right? And so also just being a corporate executive and balancing, right? Because I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a granddaughter, right? Because, family is family. All of the things. I want to be part of my community. It just sometimes it gets draining. And so I had to speak to my queens to say, it's okay to take the S off your chest. And in doing that, I realized by telling my story that I was helping others who felt the same way, but didn't feel as though people would understand. And so the level of vulnerability opened doors. And I've always been a speaker. I've just been a speaker in my own setting. And so just the opportunity to just then travel and speak, not only speak as an author, not only speak as an entrepreneur, but also speak as a corporate executive was rewarding. Because you really can't imagine how many people walk the same walk with just different shoes. And so because I'm all of those things, but I'm still Catherine Latoya Grant-Alston, right? It made people relate. Like it was like, no, you're a real person. You have real feelings. You've gone through real things. And it also, from what I've been told, inspires individuals. And so I just felt like, why would I hold that gift? Why would I hold that gift? And so before 2020, the interesting thing is I had heart surgery at the age of 33. And so when I had heart surgery, I mean, when you're going through something, you like, I believe in God. And so, prayers are like, get me through this and so forth. I didn't have any of that. I prayed, for my children. I prayed for my family, but my prayer was centered on God. Have I done enough on this earth? And if I have not, allow me to make an impact. And so coming out of that surgery and recovering, I needed to keep my promise to God. And that's how I started truly digging in and, really kind of spreading my wings like, God, you've given me this journey. There are no mistakes, right? I feel like God will give his hardest battle, right, to his strongest soldier. And so I felt like I've lived through a lot. And I'm still young, in my opinion. And so this never was about me. It never was about me. It's still not about me. And that's how I just continue to go. And that's how I continue to, be an international award winner, right? That's how I continue to be able to give my gifts to partnerships in the community so that the community members can get what they need. A lot of people say, well, okay, does that mean that you're doing free? No, because my God never said that I had to be passionately poor.
I like that.
Understand that there are partnerships that can get information to our community members so everybody wins. And I just keep going. That's what I do.
I'm running with that, passionately poor. You don't have to be passionately poor,
No.
because I'm always telling people the importance of pursuing your passion. You just gave me a jewel right there. And also I like how God, he will give his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. Another jewel, another jewel. Look, you better preach.
Oh my goodness. I've had about 4 people in the last week ask me, where's my ministry? So
Right.
it was like, I just said, God, I don't know what you're doing, but
But here's the thing though. I think you're in your ministry, because a lot of times when people think of ministry, they think of, you have to be a clergy member, you have to have a church, but you're doing your ministry. I feel as though this is my ministry. My ministry has always been helping people. And I think you and we share that in common. You want to help people, and you're helping them through sharing your story, because the enemy would tell you no one cares about your story. Your story is something that people, right, like, so who cares, and don't tell nobody. Then you letting people in your business. All of the things, quite frankly, is that's preached and heard in our community.
Family business. I got it all though. I did get it all, and you are so right. When I did the first book, I didn't eat. So when we did the launch, I did not eat. And Queen Visionary, love her to death, Tamara Mitchell Davis, the CEO wife, she called and she was like, are you eating? Are you like, she was, working through. I was so nervous. And it was because of everything you just said. The perception, all of the things that we're taught. The family business, what goes on in here stays in here, all of it, right? And so it's just amazing how when you walk in as your authentic self and you tell your story and you're vulnerable. I think what actually I got out of that was because I was scared, like, when you're in a certain profession. So let me just take it a step back. So over the last 13 years, I worked for Stanley Black & Decker, and I governed all of their money. And so, this is a global manufacturing company, literally billions of dollars. And so, all I could think for a while was, if they knew where I came from, would they allow me to handle their money?
Right.
Right. And so, a lot of people say, what's the name? Catherine, Latoya, which one? Well, it's both. Because at work, I was Catherine, but at home, I was Latoya. And by the name that someone called me, I would know who was who.
Mm-hmm.
I would know who was who. But it was in that moment that I merged it. It was in that moment when I wrote and I told my story that I merged it, because I was just like, at the end of the day, my job, I'm a servant leader. I am a servant leader. And so it is my duty to be able to help someone get through whatever it is that they're going through, that may be very similar to what I've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I told the story, though, I'm also human. So it was like, well, what will my grandmama think? And what will, will my mama be mad because, she in there and some stuff she did is in there. It is what it is, right? What will my coworkers think? Like, you think about all of those things. I walked out of it, though, just like, well, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
This is me. And so take it or leave it. And I also just feel like, well, nobody can say nothing about me that I haven't already said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay, right? And I walk bold in it. But you're absolutely right. There's this level of, I can't say the thing, or, like, what if, and so forth. You are you. You are you. And I didn't want to leave this earth without telling my story to impact the next young lady who went through a similar experience and felt like she wasn't worthy.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was, as we would say, that was the beginning of the ministry. And then I was just like, oh, well, what about the corporate executive that is looking to excel her career, right? How can I help her? How can I talk about my journey and what I was able to do? And okay, now I have all of this corporate treasury. So we do know that corporations are just big, small businesses.
Right.
So all of the things that I applied, the billions of dollars, they could work for millions, they could work for 100,000, 6 figures, 7 figures. So I literally was able to take that information and then build for small businesses. And the difference, literally the only difference, is that small businesses won't take the risk. They
Right.
won't take the risk. We want to do everything ourselves. We want to invest. We won't take the risk to do the thing to get to the next level. We don't plan, right? So it's just like, wait a second. All of the things that I do here for this corporation, making all of this money and reinvesting all of this money, navigating and strategically putting money in places so we can have acquisitions, divestiture, all of that stuff. We can do the same thing for small businesses to get them from 6 figures to 7 figures and beyond.
You're a testament of, don't let anything stop you. And if you put your mind doing something, just as a people, we were able to show people example after example after example. If you put in the work, you will get the results. You may not necessarily get the results when you want them, but you will you'll eventually achieve those results. And I tell people all the time, don't chase the outcome, chase the process.
The process, and people want to skip the process.
Mm-hmm.
You want to skip the process, right? When I was applying for college, I was working at the bank and applying for college. And my mother was incarcerated. And the applications had to go in. I took the applications to the jail. And I begged the guard to allow me to take the applications in. Now, jail. Nothing goes in and nothing goes out. They don't play that. But he knew. He knew. Like, can you just imagine you have this? Like, I'm asking you to give me a chance, right? Mm-hmm. Because statistics wise, I'm either going to end up in jail, on drugs, or dead. That's what the statistics say.
Right.
So I remember begging the guard here, you can take the papers. I just need them signed so that I can go to college, because my grandmother was not my legal guardian. My mother still was. And from there, like, when we talk about wanting something, you don't let anything stop you. You don't let anything stop you. And I always think about that, right? Because it doesn't matter the accolades, right? I got awards, I got all of the things, right? Like it does the accolades, they're great. They're the result of hard work, right? But it's those moments that I reflect that keep me humble and just know that it was all part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
It was all part of the process. Now, speaking of process, what we tend to do is pray for something. God bless me in this way. God do this, whoever, people pray to. I pray to God. So I'm going to say, God, do this. I would love this or whatnot. And we want to skip the process. We want to wake up and have the thing, not realizing that the process is necessary because the skills that we need to get the thing that we asked for, we have to build up. We have to build up, but we want to skip everything in between, right? We want to skip the hardship with building the business, the highs and the lows, understanding how to pivot, understanding how to be flexible. It's all part of the process, and we can't skip it because those are the skills, like I said, that we need. If you don't know how to manage a little bit of money, you don't know how to manage a lot of bit of money. Like you know what I mean? Like you're not going to know how to manage it if you don't know how to manage the small amount at this level. And I just think that people, especially the people who want, the immediate gratification, they don't realize that the process is truly where the gym is. Right? The process is truly where the gym is, because that's the thing that's going to get you everything that you need for what you're praying for.
So I know you had mentioned you have some books. I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of share where those books can be purchased. And is it one book, two books, or where are you at in your author journey?
So I am a 3-time Amazon bestselling author, #1 author. And so if you want a signed copy of the books, they can actually be purchased on my website, www.grant-alston.com. They're also available on Amazon, but you'll get it directly shipped and they won't be signed. So, whatever you decide. But yes, so 3 times, all 3 anthologies where I tell, a piece of my story in each book. And I am currently working on a solo book that I'm very excited about, where I will tell more, right? So, I told some pieces here and so forth. But I talk about the journey as a career woman and what it takes to actually have a seat at the table, because I don't think a lot of people talk about it. When you get in the room, right? People talk so much about, get in the room, get a seat at the table. But there is a part where you get a seat at the table and you're challenged, right? You're challenged because there's people and folks who don't want you at that table. And so how do you continue to be your authentic self, but still shine bright in spaces that may not accept you? And so, that's a little bit about the book that's to come. Also, the career ascension, and then just being a business owner. So one of the things that I love about, what I'm doing with my firm, our financial solutions, we have Kingdom Treasures, which is our social brand. And one of the things that we do, we are very interested in Black couple entrepreneurs. And so, let me just say, so the queen, right? That's me. So we truly, my husband and I truly talk in that language. So we talk to our queens, we talk to our kings, because we believe that we're royalty. And we believe that as royalty, we should walk and talk and be as such. And so we truly believe that. But we also understand that there is a true disparity when it comes to wealth between our Black race and other races. And so, I mean, just let's talk about entrepreneurs. So Black entrepreneurs, 80% of Black entrepreneurs fail in the first 12 to 18 months. So like, why? Right? Like, why? So I know we say opportunity, we say resources, but a lot of it actually is trauma, money trauma, right? Because we have so much trauma around trust. We have so much trauma around, investment. We have so much trauma in these areas that they don't really allow us to succeed. You have to take risk in business. And so, in particular, I work with queens. And so I have a coaching group where I work with queens to get them from 6 figures to 7 figures. And the reason I do that is, one, because I believe in my queens, right? But two, statistic wise, women in business, right? On average, beginning make 142,000 a year, right? But black women entrepreneurs on average make 24,000 a year. So when we start talking about, knowing our numbers, and we start talking about, closing a wealth gap, we cannot miss that our queens are working off of being passionately poor. And so, just all of these things, they come into play. So I talk about that in the book. I talk about, how to change some things, the journey when you get a seat at the table, and just the walk. Just the walk. But I want our kingdoms to thrive. If nobody hears anything else that I say, I want our kingdoms to thrive because, like you said, we are Black excellence. And how we're portrayed is not accurate. We have households. There are fathers present. We have children who are not to be stereotyped. They're worthy. And I believe that. But one of the things that I know is there's power in our dollar. And right now there's a gap. And there has been. And the way to close that gap is to ensure that you are being financially literate and that you're also just understanding the dynamics of business, understanding the dynamics of wealth building, all of those things. So we truly focus on, you're not married, but you got a boo. If you don't got a boo or whatnot, like, that's okay, right? We still provide information and so forth, but we want our kingdoms to win. Mm-hmm. We want them to win. And so we are truly on a mission to ensure that our kingdoms thrive.
It's one thing if I'm winning, but if I'm winning alone, then as a people, we're still losing.
Correct. Community is everything. And, there's this act, like, if you really think about, the generations, community has always been at the center. But we're now in a space where it's like, oh, I can do this. I got this. Your network is your net wealth.
Absolutely.
And so the other side of network is community. It's community. And I know that that's a piece that's lacking. And people truly don't think about how important it is in business and life and whatnot. And you cannot, greatness is not built in isolation. I don't care who you ask. It is not built in isolation. And community and network is everything.
I also know that you have the dubious distinction of being awarded an honorary doctorate. So what led to that?
So it was a recognition that I received. There was a school in Virginia that had been following me in the kingdom building that I have been doing. They were very specific in the kingdom building. And so we have a kingdom wealth journey course that we do for personal finance. And we do financial literacy, like I said, in the community. And we've been doing it for a while, and they were following, in their words, the ministry of the community. And quite honest, I was so humbled. But yes, the distinction is so worthy. And it's a reflection of the kingdom building that my husband and I have been doing in our community with our business and for kingdoms in our community.
I know you had a number of different positions that you held in banking. What led you to the path of entrepreneurship?
So we actually started our firm in 2011, and we were doing financial literacy. We would go to the schools, we would go to the colleges. We just wanted to educate And we wanted to start early, right? Because we wanted to plant the seed and allow it to grow so that people could be fiscally responsible and pass that down, right? So I always say, instead of passing trauma, we pass trust, right? Living trust and so forth.
Well, the jewel.
And so we always had that. We literally always had that. But the safe path is to build a career. Why not, right? Get that corporate money. And so I found myself, and people again have their beliefs, but I found myself being irritable because I was being disobedient to what I was being told to do. And so I had been told to leave and do this full time. And I was just like, yeah, that's crazy. Right? That's crazy. Like, I'm a corporate entrepreneur. I'm running all of this money. I'm making good money. Like, I'm yes. And what are you talking about? But there's a price to pay when you're disobedient. And the longer you're disobedient, the more irritable and painful it becomes. And so after I had the heart surgery, I was like, I gotta keep my word. And from there, I started to build. I started to build more. I started to do more speaking. I built my personal brand. That's another thing, right? Like, we're beyond the company brand. We have our personal brand, because at the end of the day, people buy from who they know, like, and trust. And so, Catherine and Latoya, right? Like, I got the firm and so forth, but I know her. I saw her. She said this, like, she's real, right? And so I started to build the personal brand. And I got it to a point where it was just like, it's time. It's time. And so, 7 is the year of completion. It was 7 years. It was 7 years from when I had the heart surgery, where I was just like, it's time. And so, I started to transition out. Obviously, it's been a long transition when you are on, over 1,000 bank accounts listed as a signatory.
Right.
You got a lot of legal, you're sitting on boards and so forth. So it has been a transition. But I am called for a purpose. And the vision is very clear. And so I just felt like it's my obligation to walk it. And I know people will be like, again, my grandmama was like, you sure?
Right. Grandma was like, hold on, you had that good job?
Good job. Exactly.
You had that good job.
Exactly. But I was firm. And so my grandfather passed away 2 years ago, and I remember talking to him and saying, because this has been in the works. Let me just, like I said, 7 years since I had the heart surgery, 11 plus years. How many years has it been? 13 years, excuse me, since we had the business. And so my grandfather, he passed away 2 years ago, but I had a conversation with him, and I said, hey, I'm looking to do this thing. This was after, was it two of the books were published? I believe 2 of the books were published. I was starting to do speaking tours, and I said, hey, like, I think I'm gonna do this full time. And I was just talking to him, and he looked at me. He said, anything you said you wanted to do, you've done. He said, so I don't doubt that you'll be able to do this too. And I carry that with me, because this thing is hard. Don't let people tell you, oh, it's roses. No, you got to dig deep, like you said, to be an entrepreneur. You really have to. But 2 things for sure. 1, you got to walk in your purpose and know your calling. There's no ambiguity in the fact that I'm supposed to be doing this. And so when the highs and the lows, the anxiety, I'm human, I get that, but I keep pushing because I know that this is what I was called to do. 2, the second thing for me is, I truly feel like as long as you're working for someone else, you have a glass ceiling. And generational wealth, you can't pass down a job. I can pass down a business. I can pass down a trust. The trust has beneficiary, and that trust has properties and so forth. But there's no job that can be passed down other than what you own. And so, what's the queen? She said it best. Uncle Nearest. What's her name? Fawn, I think that's her name.
Mm-hmm.
She
I think
said
that
it
is her
best.
name.
She said, I own everything and I control everything.
Mm.
And so you cannot do that working for someone.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's how I got into it, right? I was called, and now I just truly feel the decisions I make, I want my kids to eat off of. And I mean,
One of my podcast guests said something to me. Latoya Broughton, she the epitome of Black excellence in South Carolina. She's a lobbyist, and she said something. She said, "If you're not willing to bet on yourself, you're shortly betting on somebody else."
absolutely.
So we have to learn how to bet on ourselves, and that's what I'm here for. I wanted to give you the opportunity to share with us 3 things that you feel will help our viewers and listeners prepare for takeoff.
A lot of times people talk about things that they can't do, or I don't have the discipline or whatnot. One of the things for people to prepare for takeoff is to know your power. To know your power. Everything that we do, that we want to do, it's a mindset. It's a mindset. And it truly is a mindset. It's just like if you say, I want a car, a certain type of car, and you really have it in your head and you're thinking about that car and you like, yeah, I'm gonna get it, like you're determined, you start to see that car all on the highway everywhere. You start to see it in different colors, like I didn't know they made it in that color, right? That's because it's a mindset. And when we want to do something and we get a certain mindset about it, we create energy, right? And just understand that energy is, it's recycled. And so if we put it out there, it's going to come back to us. So your mindset and how you think about stuff and how you create the energy is what's going to come back. So ensure that you have the proper mindset. The second thing is proper planning. This could be finances, this could be goals, this could be like anything. Planning prevents piss poor performance, period. And so if you really want to do something, then you have to plan. You have to plan. We are like, there is no scenario where you just get up and do something, right? Like make sure that you have a proper plan, because that's going to be the thing that allows you to take the risk. That's going to be the thing that allows you to get further, right? And have a plan for the plan. Because I'm in, finance and treasury, right? I always have different scenarios, right? What if this happens? Or what if this, so that you're prepared. The third thing, and this is just for me, keep your faith in all things that you do. Keep your faith in all things that you do. I was told, and I live by this, don't let what you see forget what God said. A lot of things will happen on your journey to whatever it is that you're desiring. But don't let what you see in your human form make you forget what God said.
I told you, this is why I think this is your ministry. You out here preaching. You out here preaching. Well, also, I wanted to give you the opportunity to share with our viewers and listeners one more time where they can pick up your books, the names of your books, and how can they find them on Amazon or your website, whatever you see fit to share with our viewers and listeners.
Absolutely. So books can be found on my site, www.grant-alston.com. You can purchase them there. They're also available on Amazon, but if you purchase them from the site, then I'll be able to personalize them with a signature and send them out to you. You can see everything that I'm doing from off of my site. And of course, I'm available on social media. Full name, Catherine Latoya Grant-Alston, on Facebook and LinkedIn. And then on Instagram, I am the Queen Grant-Alston. Yeah, so look me up, find me, connect with me, because we have some great things that are in the mix. As I said, I'm always firm with my queens. And so we have programming for the queens if you're a business owner. And as I said, kingdom builders, that's what we do. So if you are a kingdom and you're looking to enhance your kingdom, then we definitely would love for you to join our community, Kingdom Treasures for Love, Finance, and Family on Facebook. And so there we drop jewels. We give, resourcing for the kingdoms and, on your marriage journey, couple journey, as well as your business journey.
That's great, because finances is one of the bedrocks of a relationship. So to be able to have those conversations with couples, is going to, add fuel to that promising fire that keeps that relationship burning. I think that what you guys are doing is great. It's to be commended. I salute you. I salute your husband and all of what it is you guys are doing. And you truly are the epitome of Black excellence. Thank you for sharing so much of your time with us. And also, I wanted to thank all of our viewers and listeners. As you know, every Wednesday, we're going to bring you proven professionals and rising entrepreneurs. And all of these conversations, just like this one, will help you prepare for takeoff. Catherine, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.